Raise your vibration and re-engage with life. Find balance and reconnect with joy. Your vehicle is balancing the wheel, and we're here to support you in becoming more happier, healthier, and successful. wheelofwellbeing.com or drsadigh.com.
Do you have viruses or malware warnings? Have a problem with your computer and need help? 24 hours, 7 days. Computer Emergency Services. Convenience and savings at your fingertips. Download our free app and keep in touch.
Greetings and much love for every one of you at any corner of this beautiful world. Another time, another opportunity to discuss some of the crucial aspects of our being. As we all grow up, we go through life, we have experiences. Meanwhile, there's some hidden agenda that we normally don't come across. And I'm hoping that by introducing these concepts and discussing them, you may find some parts of yourself that you have not paid enough attention to. And the subject that we started last time, a couple of days ago, was independence and how this independent person is coming to be from a dependent child to a codependent teenager and hopefully to an independent adult. The concept that we ended up with was interdependence, which we didn't talk much about. And this interdependence is the subject that I would like to share with you today, along with introducing to you the concept of the inner child, which I honestly believe is the most important part of my work in psychotherapy and working with my clients, as we all have this child inside of us that, regardless of the periods of dependence, codependence, and independence, still plays a part in that interdependent aspects of us, which requires more attention. So that's why these two subjects are connected, and I hope I can make more sense out of it and you can figure out why this is such a vital information for every single person. Well, if you recall, the independent person is a grown-up, a mature aspects of us. It is somebody who's autonomous, sovereign over their rights, can make decisions, can speak their mind, can make informative choices in regards with everything that they do. It's a actualized or an individuated person who not only is not the same as the family of origin, although he or she loves the family of origin, it's a totally separated individual from that aspects of family traits or family ways of seeing ourselves. Well, that doesn't mean that your family values are not good enough or they're not respectable. However, at the same time, you are an individual, and this individual has their own aspects of self, their own views and their own dynamics and DNA and initial beginning in life, which goes through spirituality or other aspects of our even celestial being. Well, we don't want to get into that much, but I just want to emphasize that that is also playing a role in who we are, and that's why as an individual we each have our own components of being in a very particular way, the same way that our fingerprints are very unique. Our eyes, they have different identification. So this identification is very unique. It's like your website or your email address. So there is only one place that you can receive and send this information, which is inside of you. So now this independent person, and we're talking about somebody who's already an adult and mature and in charge of their own life, and they're not having much issues with life. They have learned how to cope with situations, make themselves happy, and be a good resource for others around them. This is where the idea of interdependence starts, because it's not only about me, it's not only about my maturity and growing up. Now it's the part of me that also is connected with other individuals, other people who are actualized. Obviously, for me, I can be doing good. I can be, comfortable with who I am, where I'm in life. But then when I connect with somebody else, I need to consider their situation at the same time and relate with them from the position that they are. They may not necessarily be at the level that you are. They may be lower or higher or even the same, but they're still different. So that interrelationship between you and somebody else becomes your interpersonal relationship, which creates that interdependence. Because now when I'm connecting with you in this format that, I have to be here to give you this information, and if you're not there, you're not listening to me, I'm not going to really needed to be here. So this interdependence is beautiful and valuable, because I rely on you coming to me and watching these programs, and then by the same token, I show up and I give you whatever that I can. So this is a good example of an interdependent relationship. So considering this interdependent relationship, now we can introduce the subject of the inner child, right? The inner child is that part of us, we can call it maybe the ego or egotistic ways of seeing ourselves, which this child is an inner part of our psyche that has taken charge at some point to become an adult, to become a grown-up, to decide to bring good things to life and bring things that we can induce in ourselves. So this child is completely independent inside of us. Why? Because this child is the one who learned how to cope with situations. It learned how to take care of us when we were in the fight or flight or freeze, if you recall. And if you don't recall, please go back and look at the old programs that we have on the evolving mind, which we have talked about the parts of us that is either fighting with situations, fleeing the situation, or stuck in the situations. So in all of those areas, as a young person, we had no choice but to figure out, find ways that we can get over the anguish, discomfort, lacks, or other ways that we were not comfortable or happy. So through learning that, then we have created some programs for ourselves, and these programs are useful today, but unfortunately, they're not useful anymore. They have only been useful for the while that we were a child. As an adult, we need to reprogram ourselves and figure out the new ways of being. So this inner child is the old programs that is functioning today. Still, today we're running the same programs underneath everything that we have. So you may go to work, and when you go to work, you show up as an adult. You show up as an individuated and independent person, and you cooperate with your colleagues, with your employees, with your employers, and through that way of being, you're a comfortable and independent person with some interdependent relationship with others. However, once this inner child is going to come to the picture, things are going to change. If you start arguing with one of your colleagues in a childish manner, if you're not really respecting the environment that you're in a childish manner, now this inner child is showing up in an interdependent relationship, which is going to reduce that relationship into a problematic relationship, which creates less of happiness and success. So your happiness and success in reality depends on how good you're able to have communication with this child inside of you. Interestingly enough, when I do a skill or a set of practices that's called a float back, when we do this float back, the person who is in session with me goes back to an earlier part that this child was suffering from a situation that today as an adult still is a trigger point. And when we go to that time, it could be 6 years old, 8 years old, even 3 years old or less, this child has realized certain traumas, has realized certain issues, that because of those issues a certain decision has been made, and those decisions are the same patterns that are repeated in an adult life. And when through that session we allow this client to visit the child as an adult, because the adult part is also there, so connecting these two parts is really important. When the adult part of us is in charge and gives love, attention to the child inside of us, while not allowing the child to be the decision maker, this is where we want to be. And it's not easy, I need to admit. I've been working on my inner child for a very long time, but still, if I let loose, if I'm not really careful, this child may come out in a way that my adult may not approve of it. Let's give you an example. If I'm sitting with my really close friends and we're having fun, and these are old friends and we have grown up together as children, so I really feel comfortable with these kids, that are grown up as me right now. But if I say something hurtful as the child, their adult part is going to be disrespected and disregarded. So I need to have my adult part watch over my child at every given time. Imagine when you take your children to a park to play, right? If you're not going to be a helicopter mom or dad, and just you're not going to be watching over them every second that they go, in a normal way, you're going to go and sit on a bench, mind your own business, but from the corner of your eyes, you may still watching the kids, how they play. That is the role of the adult with the inner child. Because most of the time, unfortunately, when we don't realize there is a difference between the child and the adult in us, the adult is missing and the child is just acting us. And now in the example of the park, is like the adult just leaves the park and leaves the child behind to do whatever the child wants. Imagine how terrible that could be. And that's what happens to many of us on a daily basis. We are around people who are in the park without the supervision of an adult. And we're playing with them in a way that now we have to really be careful, because as children, they don't realize what they do, how they hurt us. So it's our responsibility to bring our own adult and deal with our own child in playfulness with this other child. And when we see that they don't have a supervision or somebody inside of them who's an adult, then it's up to us how to limit our playfulness with the child at that moment. Well, being an adult is a big responsibility. It requires attention, information, care, and vigilance about what we do. We need to make responsible choices at every moment of our life. From the moment that we open up our eyes, we are making responsible choices about the time we're getting up, about what we eat, about how we exercise, about how we dress, about how we communicate with people around us, about the details of the work all the way through the day until we go back to bed and we put this little child inside of us to bed and make sure that she or he had a beautiful day, or even if it wasn't, now we can comfort this child to sleep. That's how you can get a good night's sleep. Well, all of these subjects are touched upon in my book, Balancing the Wheel. If you haven't read it, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend that you start taking this book. There is an audio version of it in audiobooks.com, and there is a hard copy of it on Amazon. I highly recommend that you may be looking at the parts of this book, especially about the inner child, as each one of us is required to have an adult sense of self by realizing who this inner child is and how it behaves. In Balancing the Wheel, we're discussing the 8 spokes of this dynamic of being an adult through exercising our physical, mental, emotional, relational, recreational, environmental, spiritual, and financial ways. And you see, as an adult, we need to pay attention to all of these areas. If one of these areas is missed, then we're not going to be in balance. We're not going to be the full adult. We're going to be codependent. We're going to be dependent. We're going to be someone who's not in charge of him or herself. I appreciate your attention to the child inside of you, and again, sometimes this child needs to be handled with vigilance, with really authority, and sometimes you need to give him love, exactly like how you deal with your children. It needs to have a certain authority over this child. The child cannot be the decision maker. So if we go back to interdependence and independence, an independent person who functions interdependently is a good manager of this child. Some people control this child, and control is not going to work, because by control, we're forcing something. We become the helicopter mom or dads who are on top of the child every minute. We don't need to be that way. We would like to respect this inner child, love it, care for it, while we're not allowing the child to make decisions for us. This is where we differentiate from other parents that we have had, and they have taught us the way that they could. This is where we individuate and we become a whole person. So if you have any questions on this subject, the subject of inner child or interdependence, you're more than welcome to reach out. And also, if you have any topics, any concerns, any questions that you may have, the togethernessmedia.com has been doing a great job in collaborating with me and putting all of this information back, bringing them all back to me, and this way I can give you a feedback on ideas or subjects that you're interested in. Also, you're more than welcome to email me at drdsadigh@gmail.com, and I'm glad to answer all of your questions. Our website, Wheel of Wellbeing, has been designed to give you information about all of the 8 spokes of the wheel that we just discussed. If you go through them, if you take the wheel test and give yourself an opportunity to understand yourself in the dynamics of what areas the full adult is not functioning, you can really get ahead of yourself much faster. And by reading the book or joining our very, very specific and special group of people, which is Wheel Select, you can receive all of this information and a direct communication with myself and Coach Bonnie. The Wheel Select has a lot of different programs and possibilities, including the book in it, that you can be utilizing. The exercises are audio exercises, and you can listen to them and practice them. Meditation and breathing are really important in creating that base that your child can be calm. I wish you all the best and blessings. Looking forward to meeting you soon in our next program. Thank you. A healthy mind requires balance, and balancing the wheel is your guide to finding more happiness, healthier lifestyle, and a successful practice in whatever you do. I'm Dr. Daniel Sadigh, author of Balancing the Wheel, and you can find it on Amazon under balancingthewheel.com/book, or in the Audibles in audiobooks.com.